Our host for this segment would be Lina Al-Tamimi. Lina, the mic is all yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Rasha. It was very wonderful to listen to all of these women and their talks, and it was very inspiring talk. It's a very special episode, I would say. Rasha, if you can notice, every episode has its own personality, and it's very different from the one before. And we're very lucky having all these ladies with us tonight. If you all excuse me, I'll start with Heidi. And if you are familiar with my section or my part, I would always go to your stories from the book, and I will ask you about certain parts. So, Heidi, I was noticing this section in the second paragraph where you had found the niche, and I would like to know more about it. I would like you to tell people the importance of finding the niche, in your opinion.
Finding your niche means that, to me, it means that it finds what sets you apart from everyone else. As for this industry, the baking one that I got into it, there was so many people doing it. There was, it's a lot of amazing artists out there that do very similar work. It's all about finding the aspect, the unique thing of why do you love this so much? What makes you different? What is it about what you do will get the people to contact you rather than going to anyone else? What's the special thing that sets you apart and really truly shows your talent, shows your personality? It's all about showing your personality in your work. This what makes you unique, even if you do the same one. So in all my creations, even if I just post it out there anonymously, not even having my watermark or my logo on it, people can tell this is Heidi's work. And it just is, it's all, to me, it's pouring your spirit and pouring your ideas out there and having this special touch that it reflects what you think, whether it's taking care of your details, whether it's adding some of your spirit that reflects the way you think. Taking things to the next level was my true passion. If I'm working on a project and I need to get a certain piece done, I'm always thinking, okay, we got this done so far. How do I make it even more amazing? How do I even make it more challenging for me so it comes out even more realistically looking, so to speak? It's finding the level that you can never get bored of, that it keeps you motivated, it keeps you challenged enough to keep going. Even before just like what Uzma said, once you hit a certain target, you're always looking for a higher target. You're always setting the bar higher for yourself to just keep going and reaching for that bar. Once you get that, you never compare yourself to anybody else. You're always in constant challenge with yourself, with your older self a week ago. So we got to that goal. Let's just, keep pushing the bar and just go after it. So that's finding the niche for me, how it was. Yeah.
Very, very inspiring. Thank you, Heidi. I will move on to another part where you talked about partnership. I recall in my early 20s, I was thinking about having a project for my own, and I met a business consultant mentor at that time, and he said, you have to find a partner. And I was like, I don't have a partner. And he's like, then you don't have a project. And he was right, unfortunately, at that time. I couldn't juggle. I was studying and working, and I wanted to do my project, and was very young and unexperienced at that time. And when I read your story and about the partnership, I would like you to tell us more about the story and tell us the features, the perfect features of a partner in a project or in a business, and how can you find your trustworthy partner?
Having a partner in your project or in your passion is not the easiest task in the world, in my opinion. You two have to be completely open book to each other. You need to finish each other's sentences in a sense. You need to know how each one works individually, so you both can work together. So this collaboration is very important because you don't want to step on each other's toes. Each one has to have a certain quality to bring to the table in order for this business to grow and to succeed. We have an old saying in Egypt or in Arabic that if a ship has two masters or uh, two leaders, it will just sink because they will just be in constant conflict. But I do believe in partnership in certain individuals. In my special case, I did not have like a certain partner per se throughout the journey. I attempted to have a partnership with a couple of friends. It didn't really develop into a full partnership. It was just in a very early stages of the project, but it didn't really develop. Maybe because we did not agree on certain rules. So this is a very important thing. All the rules has to be set from very, very early on. Responsibilities have to be outlined. So if someone each one has to have their skill set laid out on the table to be able to outline who's going to do what, how you guys going to work together, what you guys going to do in conflict situation, how are you going to deal with it. So all this has to be established from early on in the business or in the project to be able to make it successful, thriving business. This to me is the successful partnership. Otherwise, maybe you're better off doing it all by yourself, which is not truly the best thing in the world because you will be doing everything. Everything will be a one-man show, and it's a very hard thing to do. Partnership can be very, very useful if done right, for sure.
Very, very helpful words, and I hope every entrepreneur can listen to this and follow it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Heidi. I'll move on to Dr. Uzma. I'd just like to say at the beginning, Dr. Uzma, your story is very inspiring. When I read it, I was like shocked. Mashallah, may God help you, and what you're doing. What you're doing is really amazing.
Alhamdulillah.
I was reading, and the thing that I was wondering is you were offered 100 riyal in your first job in the autism center, and I was like, maybe it's a typo. I was hoping
No, it was 1,000 riyal. Yeah, it was 1,000 riyal. Yeah.
Still, it's that much of a money. I can see this generation now coming into the market, the zine generation, and they are like expecting to get paid in 10,000s and in their first jobs when they're fresh graduated. So can you tell us more what is the importance of knowing what you're doing now and paying attention to the pay later?
Yeah, I was a master's degree holder, an international. And for me, the 1,000 riyal, when I first heard it, and I was like, this is offensive, And then I thought to myself, I'm going to say no. And you know what? Alhamdulillah, my father turned my thinking about, and he said, and you think fresh out of college, you think you have all the knowledge in the world, girl? And I was like, well, he's right over there.
True.
So I accepted that so that I could go in and learn. That was
Exactly.
never meant to be a salary. Whatever I got, I used that for my transportation. But for me, it was a learning curve. And that place was giving me an opportunity. Their money was, once, I got my father's viewpoint, I understood it. I thought, well, I'm not there for the money. I'm here to understand how this work with children, comes about, because I worked only with adults. I never worked with children. And I was not getting an opportunity to work with adults. The hospitals had 2 shifts and I was newly married. And we all know whatever men can be like when they hear the new bride has got a job from 9 to 1 and then 5 to 9. So it was either select this or just kill my dreams and sit and wash dishes. And I thought to myself, no, the dream needs to be kept alive no matter how and in what form. Be it very small, be it very humble. I would advise every single person, follow that dream. It does not matter even if there's a portion or a fraction of it that you are living, but go ahead. Let there be satisfaction in you that, you had this burning desire within you to do something, to bring about a change or to contribute or anything, but don't let that dream die. Because for majority of us, because I work with depressive, communities, and I do know for a fact that majority of us women, not only are we, depressed because of our hormones or whatever, we are also depressed because majority of us allowed others to kill our dreams. And for me, that was not going to happen. So I meant to keep it alive in some way or form. So I said, right, I'll work with children. I'm fine with that. And I just opted for that. I just had to get in. It does not mean that that you're setting the bar so high for yourself that you think that anything lower than that is an embarrassment or a humiliation. For me, even that first step was a huge mark. And I just grabbed onto that opportunity. So yes, I took that 1,000 Riyal just to get in there, to understand how it works, what the children are like, what the parents are like, what a professional setup should look like, what are the kind of toys the children are interested in. And as I said, it was just a passion. It grew so naturally on me. And I think that's very vital. Going in there with good expectations, and just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, I am to my servant as my servant thinks of me. And I went with that expectations from Allah that He'll make me love these children and love this job. And I've never looked back since then.
MashaAllah, mashallah. I can't agree more on what you said. It is very important. It's the first salary to me is like a reward for you building an experience. It's not a salary. It's not for making a fortune. It's you learning and crossing your way into the market or
Totally.
into the
And
job.
gaining that knowledge is more than the 1,000 Riyal.
Exactly.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna quote here from the quote and at the end of the story. If you have a dream, voice in your heart, follow that dream, listen to your inner voice. It's your future calling you. Inner voice. How do we know what our inner voice is telling us? How do we define our inner voice?
I'll go back to Yasmin about this, when she said she related everything back to an ayah in the Quran or to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or to a hadith or to this, that, every single thing. That voice in your heart is basically Allah's voice, because there's nobody else except the creator of that heart in there. And I have not allowed other diversions. For me, the Khaliq is above the Mukhliq. And I allowed only him to reside over there. And so only his voice is the voice that guides me, because both my parents have passed away. I'm a single mom with 2 children who are studying. And so And I'm a very easy target for a lot of men who catfish. So to keep myself sane, to keep myself, because, as you must have heard from a lot of people that psychologists and psychiatrists are half mad themselves, because where there's so much, turmoil, damage, abuse, whatever you want to call that. And it's invariably very difficult for you not to be caught up in that whirlwind of emotions, of behaviors. And you need to keep yourself intact. Where do you go? I go to Medina. That's the only place I find peace. And I go there when my bucket is full. When I know that I'm about to, unleash it all, that's the place to go to. And my inner voice for me is Allah's voice. And I always, something doesn't feel right, maybe because I'm older than the rest of you, and there's more of life experience. And like Rasha said, that I sound like a survivor. I guess I am. I listen to instincts. I listen to what I feel deep inside my tummy. Sometimes my body gives it away, either through goosebumps or either through, something, a very gut instinct, or what do you call it? Your primitive experiences, because, what our caveman ancestors felt may be a part of our biological inheritance. What you feel, the fight or flight or survival instincts, all those come to your fore when I'm in somebody's field. And that's what happens to me. That again is part of my inner voice, on how my body is reacting, on how I am behaving. The way I'm speaking to you, Lena, right now is possibly not the way I speak to Heidi or to Yasmin, or the way I speak to Rasha. As you yourself said, that each episode that you have done, it has been so different from each other in a similar manner. And my inner voice says something different in front of different people. So I think what I meant by the inner voice was that, and I think somewhere people have got to realize you need to also not only channel your inner voice, you need to train that inner voice as well. What happens to a lot of depressed people is the negative narrations that they have about themselves. Now, I wish to take a little bit of the deen from here, and I'll give a simple exercise that's not only going to help us on this forum, but also to the various listeners out there. That what happens with the human being is, now all of us have got very, very different sensory systems. Subhanallah. Just like our fingerprints, no two are same in this world, our sensory systems are designed that way. When we receive information from the environment, the first thing that happens is it goes to your, let us say, your forehead. And in your forehead, that's where your working memory or your short-term memory is. You take it from the sensory system, from the environment, any information, and you just store it for 1 to 2 seconds in your short-term memory or your working memory. From there, when you rehearse it 3 times, most of the time 3 times is enough for any information to process. So 3 times if you rehearse it, it goes from your short-term memory into your long-term memory, which is the back of your head. And that is your repertoire. That's where you can say that is the attic of your, information, where you store every single thing. And whenever retrieval needs to happen, when you need to retrieve any information, you go into your attic and you retrieve it. And it stays in your memory because you have rehearsed it so many times. Now, subhanallah, going back to the hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever he had anything new to say to the people or any new hadith he had to narrate, he always narrated it 3 times. We can link the scientific to the religious. He did it 3 times. Now we understand through science on how information processing works. You practice anything 3 times, it goes into your system, into your short-term memory and then into your long-term memory. or based on your rehearsals. A lot of us give ourselves that same narrations on how bad we are, how fat we are, how short we are, on what we do not have in our lives, what we should have been, but we are not. And when we keep on giving ourselves these narrations, that inner voice starts echoing you. And we find ourselves to be in this depressed bubble and we don't know how to get out of it. And since I've already given you this information, let me just give you a tiny bit of how you can recover from that. Every single time that you have a negative thought about anything, nip it in the bud. Don't even allow that sentence to complete in your head. And even if you allow it to complete it in your head, immediately following that negative sentence, cover yourself up with 3 positive ones. 3 positive ones. And when you are covering it with 3 positive ones, just make sure that your positive comments or sentences are not too far from your negative ones. Like if you are telling yourself, look at how huge I have become. Immediately, if you can nip it in the bud, don't even go to the huge part, remove that and just say, I need to work on myself. I know I'm going to look fantastic tomorrow. I will get a dress in order to celebrate this event, whatever. But you should not be, well, tomorrow I'm going to look like Marilyn Monroe and I am going to have this, thigh-high slit on that dress. It should be a very realistic, positive sentence to help you recover. It cannot be anything unrealistic. So I do believe that there is a therapist in each one of us. People do not need to pay therapists, but we need people who can show us that path and we can be our own healers.
Wow, I'm just going to say wow. I hope what you just said can reach everyone in this world. It's really important, and it's and we suffer from the lack of knowledge on these things, and people awareness on these things are really important.
And I think this forum gives a voice to that, and
Yes.
and I hope it reaches out to those women, learn about it, know about it. And that's why I think Yasmin's role is so important, to be a traveler, where you pick up, it broadens your horizons, broadens your outlook, the kind of things that you can absorb, the kind of things you can learn, the kind of things that you can take on, and at the same time, not letting go of your identity. All those things are so beautiful. You look at what you can bring in. There are so many things that she can bring back to Morocco and so many things she can take back from Morocco to the world. And she's an ambassador for Morocco. And likewise with Heidy is not just serving her clients cakes or home-baked goods. She's actually serving a part of her own nature, what she's meant to be. I highly suspect that she's a nurturer. And there's a side of her that loves feeding people, most probably. And there it is, and she's turned that passion into a business. And what she's serving is just not cakes, she's serving a part of her personality to these people. And that's so vital. If we can, possibly change one thought, one mindset at a time, then we are not going to have so many people, on the extreme end of the spectrum, where they're depressed, where they're traumatized, where they don't know how to live further, or they're not able to cope with, the daily turmoils. I would put it that way. Even this inner voice on how to channel it.
It's very, very important. Thank you so much, Uzma, for all these wonderful and aspiring words. I have to move to Yasmin now.
Sure.
Yasmin, I traveled with you during reading your story. It's really aspiring, and especially that you are in a very, very young age, mashallah. And where I want to ask you is the following, the challenge bit. So your challenge was around identity and understanding your role in the world. Can you tell us more? How did you find your role in the world, And what do you say to the girls or to the women or everyone who's listening to us on how can they find their role in the world?
That's wow. I mean, I'm still taking in what Uzma was sharing. It's so deep and so much wisdom. Thank you, Uzma. Wow, really, really, really beautiful. And honestly, the answer lies in her words. A lot of what she shared is so connected to my answer. Achievement, success, all of that come and go. And it's defined by different cultures differently. And what I found for me personally is that, happiness, that connection to self and to the other is one of the highest achievement you can have, even more than money or houses, or it's the experience. It's the waking up in the morning and feeling a sense of purpose and a sense of connection. And, some might be connection to God's. It's beautiful actually to realize that people have different meaning to what that connection is, but to honor it, to honor all the definitions. For me, it is God. It is, Allah. It truly, I feel a deeper connection to my own religion and culture after having seen the world and sat with monks and went to Bhutan and just asking a lot of questions to eventually come back to, the Quran. One of the best things I did this past year is to live in the Mediterranean Sea. I just sat there for many months, and I wanted to see what would happen if I let go of the identity. Because growing up in Morocco, you're Arab, you're Muslim, you're African, you're Moroccan, you're Middle Eastern, you're not Middle Eastern, you're North African, you're immigrant, so many identities. And each identity holds so much. And I just wanted to let go of all of that for a moment, at least. And it was beautiful. It was really, I cried more times than I can count. There were days where I didn't know why I was crying, but it felt like a purification. I was really healing deep stories, traumas that go down generations. And if I can just let go and surrender every day, to me, that's my definition of success. And I hope that people or young girls, if they are listening, to really trust their intuition, because they already know who they are. It's just society sometimes that conditions us on a different path, that we need to be a certain way or go get that job or go to this school, and that's what success is. But at the end of it, it's empty. And happiness, connection, and connection to self is what I hope to convey today.
Amazing, Yasmin. That's very, very interesting. And in such a young age, I'm very proud of you, Saraha. Let's go to a happy place. You've mentioned in the story that you were invited to the White House. I don't know if you made it to the White House, and if you can tell us more about this story, because I find it very interesting. And I don't know a lot of people who went to the White House.
One day we'll go together to the White House. I had the honor to be invited perhaps 5 different times. And I had the honor to be President Joe Biden. I sat with him on a panel once, which was fun. And it was very human. He was a wonderful person. And I think the reason why I was invited, and I did ask, why was I invited? Because of course, when you're in those settings, sometimes you don't understand. And I was very young when that was happening. But I think it was because I just was living my life. I was following my intuition and traveling around 50 states. And I think for someone at 17 to go to all 50 states on a Greyhound bus, to me, it was just a journey. It was it was a dream that I wanted to fulfill. Because when I was young, people would laugh at me when I told them I wanted to travel the world. At first, perhaps I was trying to prove something to myself, but I would say halfway through the 50 states, I realized I was on a much different journey, which was the inner journey that I was describing earlier, where there's something much bigger than just the 50 states or even the White House or any country or government or nation. It's the connection to the divine, to God. So that's, it was great. It was wonderful. And when I was 17, the State Department identified me as a young Moroccan ambassador. So very young, I was connected to the White House and being an ambassador of the Arab world in America to break down stereotypes about Muslims. And the program really was designed after 9/11 to break down these stereotypes about our region. And it was great. People didn't know. A lot of Americans I met who had these perceptions or misconceptions just had never met a Muslim before. And then they were like, but you're so cool. Like, you're awesome. Like, nice. I want to come to the Arab world. I want to come to Morocco. So that's really where Voyage came to be, is this invitation for cross-cultural exchange and understanding. But yeah, and it's an ongoing mission. There's a lot of work to do, and everyone needs to be part of it.
Thank you so much, Yasmin. I wish I can continue asking the three of you and never finish, but I believe my time is done for now, and I'll give the mic back to Rasha. Thank you all for the wonderful words and inspiring quotes and everything. Back to you, Rasha.
Thank you, Lena. Thank you, everyone. That was an excellent talk. So I also agree with you, Lena, that each episode has its own flavors, and it really turns out inspiring. So moving on to our next segment, which is a personal favorite of mine, the game of questions. Let's go.